The notification arrived while I was in Tokyo, closing a deal with Yamamoto. I wasn't supposed to see it. My phone was face down on the hotel nightstand, and I'd planned to sleep through until my 6 a.m. alarm. But jet lag had other ideas, and when I rolled over, squinting at the ceiling and calculating it was only 1:47 p.m. back home in Phoenix, I saw my iPad glowing on the desk. A message preview lit up the screen. From my wife's iCloud account, the one we shared for family photos and calendars. The one that automatically synced to all our devices because Emily said it was easier to coordinate our lives that way. Can't wait to feel you again. Thursday afternoon, same place? The sender name read simply, Brad K. I sat up. Read it again. Then again. My first thought wasn't rage or heartbreak. It was simpler than that. Who the hell is Brad K? I grabbed the iPad, my hands steadier than they should have been. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was 15 years of being a litigation consultant, trained to compartmentalize, to gather facts before reacting. The message thread opened with a swipe, and suddenly I was staring at 3 months of my marriage dissolving in real time. The early messages were cautious, professional, almost. Great meeting you at the fundraiser. We should grab coffee sometime. That would have been the Scottsdale Arts Council Gala in February. Emily had gone alone because I was in Dallas for a deposition. She'd worn the black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one that made her look 10 years younger than 42. The messages got bolder by mid-March. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. You're incredible. Tell me when Greg's traveling again. Greg. My name in another man's mouth, reduced to an obstacle, a schedule to work around. I scrolled faster, my heart rate climbing. There were logistics, hotel names, times, careful coordination around my business trips. There were compliments that made my stomach turn, and there were photos. Nothing explicit, thank God, but enough. Emily in lingerie I'd never seen. Emily's smile in some generic hotel room, the kind of radiant happiness I hadn't seen directed at me in years. Thursday afternoon. That was tomorrow. Well, today now. Thursday back in Phoenix, where my wife thought I was still 5,000 miles away, not due back until Saturday. I checked my messages with Emily. The last one I'd sent was 6 hours ago. Meeting's running late. Probably won't be able to call tonight. Love you. Her response, no problem, get some rest, love you too. The heart emoji felt like a knife. I stood up, paced to the window. Tokyo sprawled below, a sea of lights even at this ungodly hour. My reflection stared back at me. 45 years old, graying at the temples, still in decent shape despite too many hotel gyms and airport meals. I'd spent 2 decades building a career that let Emily stay home with our kids, that paid for our 4-bedroom house in Desert Ridge, that funded her charity work and book club and whatever else filled her days while I was gone. And she'd spent it planning afternoons with Brad K. My phone buzzed. A work email from my associate confirming tomorrow's presentation was ready. The Yamamoto deal, 18 months of negotiations, a $40 million contract, the biggest win of my career. I was supposed to be celebrating. Instead, I was Googling flights back to Phoenix. There was a United departure at 6:30 a.m. Tokyo time, landing at 1:15 p.m. in Phoenix. If I left now, packed fast, caught a cab to Narita, I could make it. I could be home by 2 p.m., well before whatever rendezvous Emily had planned for Thursday afternoon. Part of me wanted to call her right then. Scream, demand answers. But that same professional instinct that kept me calm in depositions kicked in. Evidence first, confirmation. I needed to see this with my own eyes, needed to be absolutely certain before I blew up 15 years of marriage and upended our kids' lives. Jake was 13. Madison was 10. They were probably asleep right now in their rooms. No idea their world was about to shatter. I pulled up the family calendar on the iPad. Emily's schedule showed lunch with Vanessa at noon on Thursday, then nothing until pick up Madison soccer at 5:30 p.m. Vanessa was her college roommate, lived in Tucson, someone I'd met maybe twice in 15 years. Another lie, probably. Or maybe she really was having lunch with Vanessa first, then squeezing in her affair before carpool duty. The casual compartmentalization of it made me nauseous. I grabbed my laptop, pulled up our bank statements. There, a charge at the Scottsdale Marriott on March 14th, the day I'd been in Dallas. $287.43. Another at the Hilton Garden Inn on March 28th when I was in Seattle. April 11th, the Courtyard by Marriott, during my San Francisco trip. She'd used our joint credit card. Our money. She hadn't even bothered to hide it because why would she? I never checked the statements that carefully. I trusted her with everything. Our finances, our home, our children. Trust. What a stupid, fragile thing. I booked the flight. Then I screenshotted everything. Every message, every photo, every hotel charge. I forwarded it all to my personal email, then to a secure cloud storage account Emily didn't know about. 15 years of marriage had taught me she was thorough, organized, the kind of person who might delete evidence if spooked. By 3:30 a.m., I was in a cab to the airport, my luggage hastily packed, my mind racing faster than Tokyo's empty streets. By 4 a.m., I was through security, sitting at the gate, drinking terrible coffee and staring at my wedding ring. By 6:30 a.m., I was airborne, hurtling back across the Pacific toward a confrontation I still couldn't quite believe was real. And by 2 p.m. Phoenix time, I'd be finding out exactly who Brad K. was. The cabin lights dimmed as we began our descent into Phoenix. I'd been awake for 26 hours straight, but my mind felt sharp, hyper-focused in that way it gets when adrenaline overrides exhaustion. The businessman next to me had given up trying to make conversation somewhere over the Pacific. Good. I had nothing to say to anyone. My phone remained in airplane mode. Emily thought I was still in Tokyo, probably asleep in my hotel room while she was, what? Getting ready? Already there? The thought made my jaw clench. I'd spent the flight running scenarios. The evidence was airtight, but evidence wasn't the point anymore. I needed to see it. Needed the confirmation that would kill whatever small, pathetic part of me still hoped this was somehow a misunderstanding. Trust. What a stupid, fragile thing. We touched down at 1:47 p.m. Phoenix time. I'd timed it perfectly, early enough to get home before she left, late enough that she wouldn't expect me anywhere near American airspace. The jetway smelled like recycled air and desperation. I moved through Sky Harbor on autopilot, bypassing baggage claim. I'd packed everything in my carry-on. No delays. No variables I couldn't control. Outside, the April heat hit like a wall. Desert sun, cloudless sky, temperature pushing 95. I climbed into an Uber, gave the driver an address 3 blocks from my house. Rough flight? He asked, glancing at me in the rear view. Long one. He took the hint. We drove in silence. I had him drop me at the corner of Palo Verde and Desert Ridge Drive. Paid cash. Watched him pull away before walking the remaining distance. The neighborhood looked exactly as I'd left it Sunday morning. Pristine lawns, palm trees, SUVs and driveways. The Johnson sprinklers were running. Mrs. Patterson was bringing in groceries. Normal. Everything perfectly normal while my life disintegrated. Our house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac. Emily's white Lexus was still in the garage. I could see it through the window. Good. She hadn't left yet. I checked my watch. 2:23 p.m. According to the messages, they usually met around 3. I let myself in through the side gate, moving quietly through the backyard. The pool filter hummed. Madison's soccer ball sat deflated by the patio furniture. Everything exactly where it should be. Through the kitchen window, I could see Emily at the island, her back to me. She was wearing that navy dress, The one from the photo she'd sent Brad. The one I'd never seen before. Her hair was down, styled in loose waves. She was checking her phone. My phone. Still in airplane mode, she had no idea. I could have walked in right then. Could have confronted her before she left, spared myself whatever was about to happen. But I needed more than her denials. More than her explanations. I needed to see exactly who my wife had become when she thought no one was watching. I moved back around the house, got in my car, parked down the street where I'd left it Sunday. Settled in to wait. Emily emerged at 2:47 p.m. She'd added a light jacket, oversized sunglasses. She looked beautiful. 15 years of marriage and she could still make my breath catch. Even now, even knowing what I knew. She backed out of the driveway, turned left toward Scottsdale Road. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. She drove like she always did. 10 over the limit, aggressive lane changes, phone mounted on the dashboard. I stayed 3 cars back, tracking her white Lexus through afternoon traffic. We passed the kids' school, the grocery store where she shopped every Tuesday, the Starbucks where she met her book club. All these familiar places, all these ordinary moments. How many times had she driven this same route to meet him? She turned into the parking lot of the Courtyard by Marriott. Not the Scottsdale location this time. This one was in Tempe, closer to ASU. Cheaper, more anonymous. She parked near the side entrance, away from the lobby. I pulled into a spot with a clear view, killed the engine, watched her check her makeup in the rearview mirror, reapply lipstick. She was smiling. Actually smiling. A silver BMW pulled in 2 spots over. Late model, expensive. Phoenix plates. A man got out, tall, athletic build, maybe 40. Dark hair, expensive suit without the tie. He walked toward Emily's car with the easy confidence of someone who'd done this before. She got out. He said something I couldn't hear. She laughed. That genuine laugh I hadn't heard directed at me in months. He touched her waist. She leaned into it. They walked toward the side entrance together. Not touching anymore, but close. Practiced. They'd done this enough times to know the choreography. I sat in my car in the Tempe afternoon heat and watched my wife of 15 years disappear into a hotel with another man. The logical part of my brain, the part that had built a career on staying calm under pressure, noted the time. 3:04 p.m. Documented the license plate, 7TRJ483. Observed that he'd parked in a spot with no security camera coverage. The rest of me felt nothing. Just a vast, expanding numbness. I could have followed them in, could have made a scene, confronted them in the lobby, gotten the room number and kicked down the door. But that wasn't the play. That was emotion, and emotion made you sloppy. Instead, I took out my phone, turned off airplane mode, watched the messages flood in. Emails from colleagues, texts from Jake's soccer coach, a voicemail from the dealership about my car's service appointment. Nothing from Emily. I opened Find My iPhone. There she was, a little blue dot inside the Courtyard by Marriott Tempe. I took a screenshot, added it to the folder with all the others. Then I opened my contacts and scrolled to a name I'd hoped I'd never need. David Brennan. We'd worked together on a case 3 years ago. Messy divorce, uglier custody battle. He was a shark, exactly what I needed. The phone rang twice. Greg? That you? Yeah, I need your help. What kind of help? The kind you specialize in. How fast can you meet? There was a pause. I could hear him thinking, recalibrating. I can clear my afternoon. You okay? No, but I will be. Where are you? I looked at the hotel entrance, at the Lexus still parked in the sun, at the BMW with its Phoenix plates and its careful positioning away from cameras. Tempe, but I can be at your office in 30 minutes. I'll be here. Greg, bring everything you've got. Already done. I hung up. started the engine, took one last look at the hotel where my wife was probably already in bed with Brad K., whoever the hell he was. My hands were steady on the wheel. My mind was clear. The numbness had crystallized into something harder, colder, something useful. I'd spent 15 years building a life with Emily, building a home, a family, a future. I'd worked 80-hour weeks, traveled constantly, missed Jake's games and Madison's recitals because I was providing, because that was my role, because I thought we were building something together. And she'd thrown it away for hotel rooms and stolen afternoons and a man whose last name I still didn't know. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated me. I pulled out of the parking lot and headed toward David's office in Scottsdale. Behind me, the hotel receded in the rearview mirror. Ahead, the road stretched clear and straight through the desert heat. This was going to hurt. It was going to get ugly. Jake and Madison would be caught in the middle of something they didn't deserve. But I was done being the fool who trusted blindly while his wife built a second life in cheap hotels. Now it was my turn. I sat in David's conference room, the leather chair cold against my back, watching him flip through the screenshots on my phone. His expression remained neutral. Years of practicing law had given him a poker face that would make Vegas pros jealous. But I caught the slight tightening around his eyes when he reached the photo of Emily in that black lingerie. "This is solid," he said finally, setting the phone face down on the mahogany table. "Very solid. The timeline matches the credit card statements, the messages are explicit about the affair, and you've got photographic evidence. Arizona is a no-fault state, but this kind of documentation helps with everything else." Everything else meaning what? Custody, asset division, spousal support. David leaned back, steepling his fingers. Courts don't punish adultery directly, but judges are human. When they see a parent spending marital funds on hotel rooms while lying about their whereabouts, it influences their perception of character. And character matters when determining what's in the best interest of children. My jaw tightened. Jake and Madison. This was going to destroy them. "How do you want to play this?" David asked. Some clients prefer the direct confrontation. Others want to gather more evidence first, maybe hire a PI to document everything thoroughly before she knows you're aware. I thought about Emily at home right now, probably showering off the afternoon's activities, checking her phone for messages from Brad K., planning what lies she'd tell me about her day when I called from Tokyo tonight. "I want her out," I said. "Clean, fast, and permanent." David nodded slowly. "Understandable, but we need to be strategic. You've got the evidence. That's good. But we need to secure your position before she knows you know. Once you confront her, everything changes. She'll lawyer up, start moving money, create her own narrative." "What do you suggest?" He pulled a legal pad closer, uncapping a pen. "First, document everything in your house. Take photos of all assets, jewelry, electronics, anything valuable. Get copies of all financial statements, tax returns, investment accounts. Do you have a home safe?" "Yes, in our bedroom closet." "Photograph the contents. If there's cash, count it and document the amount. Check her personal spaces, purse, car, anywhere she might keep additional phones or documents." He paused. "I know this feels invasive, but you need to protect yourself. People do strange things when marriages end." The word hung in the air. End. 15 years, reduced to a past tense verb. "What about the kids?" I asked. "Don't tell them anything yet. Not until we have a plan in place." David's voice softened slightly. "I know you want to be honest with them, but they're young. Jake's 13, old enough to understand divorce, but not old enough to process infidelity without it damaging his relationship with his mother. Madison's even younger. Right now, your job is to protect them from the chaos that's coming." I nodded, though everything in me wanted to grab my kids and tell them their mother was a liar who'd thrown away our family for hotel room encounters with some guy she'd met at a fundraiser. Timeline, David continued. It's Thursday afternoon. You're supposed to be in Tokyo until Saturday. That gives us a window. Tonight, go home like nothing's wrong. Be normal. Tomorrow, while Emily thinks you're still overseas, I want you to gather everything I mentioned. Every document, every photo, every piece of evidence. We'll meet again Friday evening to review what you found. And then we file. Monday morning, first thing. I'll have the papers drawn up over the weekend. We'll request temporary custody, exclusive use of the marital home, and restraint on all joint accounts. By the time she's served, you'll already have the strategic advantage. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. Hope Tokyo's treating you well. Kids are good. Jake has soccer practice tomorrow at 4. Love you. The heart emoji at the end made my stomach turn. She's texting me, I said, showing David the screen. Respond normally. You're still in Tokyo, remember? Everything's fine. I typed back, glad to hear it. Meeting's running long but productive. Tell Jake good luck at practice. Miss you guys. The lies came easier than they should have. Good, David said. Maintain the routine. Don't give her any reason to suspect you know. No unusual questions, no changes in behavior. Can you do that? Could I sit across from Emily at dinner, watch her smile at me, listen to her talk about her day, knowing she'd spent her afternoon in bed with Brad K? Knowing she'd done it a dozen times before, maybe more? I can do it, I said. David studied me for a moment. Greg, I need to ask, are you absolutely certain you want to end this? No possibility of counseling, reconciliation? She scheduled this, I said flatly. While I was in Tokyo closing the biggest deal of my career, she put it in her calendar. Lunch with Vanessa. She used our credit card to pay for the room. She looked me in the eye last week before I left and told me she loved me, then spent 3 afternoons with him while I was gone. That's not a mistake. That's a choice. Understood. He made a note on his pad. One more thing. Do you know anything about Brad K? His full name, where he works, whether he's married? Just what I saw today. Silver BMW, license plate 7TRJ483. About 40, athletic build. The messages mentioned they met at the Scottsdale Arts Council Gala in February. I'll have my investigator run the plate. If he's married, that's leverage. His wife deserves to know what her husband's doing with his afternoons. David's expression hardened. And if he's spending marital funds on your wife, that creates additional complications for him. The thought of Brad K having his own family, his own unsuspecting wife at home, made everything worse. This wasn't just about Emily's betrayal. It was about 2 people who decided their pleasure mattered more than the lives they'd built with other people. How long will this take? I asked. The divorce, I mean. In Arizona, if it's contested, 6 months minimum. Could be longer if she fights on custody or assets. If she agrees to terms, he shrugged. Could be faster. But given what's at stake, 2 kids, a house, retirement accounts, your business income, I'd expect her to fight. 6 months. Half a year of legal battles, depositions, custody evaluations. Jake and Madison caught in the middle, shuttling between houses, learning that their parents' marriage was a lie. What about spousal support? I asked. She'll likely request it. She's been out of the workforce for over a decade, stayed home with the kids while you built your career. Courts typically award support in situations like that. Even though she's the one who cheated? Even though. Like I said, Arizona is no fault. The affair doesn't eliminate her right to support, but it does affect the amount and duration, especially if we can show she was spending marital funds on the affair. Judges don't like that. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emily. Madison wants to know if you can FaceTime before bed. Around 8? She wants me to FaceTime the kids, I said. David checked his watch. It's 4:15 now. You've got time to get home, settle in, make it look natural. Remember, you're still in Tokyo. It's Friday morning there. You just woke up. I stood, pocketing my phone. The weight of it felt different now, like carrying evidence of a crime instead of just a communication device. Greg, David said as I reached the door. One last thing. This is going to get ugly. Emily's going to say things about you, make accusations, try to flip the narrative. She'll tell people you were never home, that you prioritized work over family, that she was lonely. Some of your friends will believe her. You need to be prepared for that. I was working, I said, providing for my family. She knew that when we got married. I know, but that's the story she'll tell. Just be ready. I drove home through rush hour traffic, the Phoenix heat still brutal at 4:30 in the afternoon. The house looked exactly as I'd left it 20 minutes ago. Emily's Lexus in the driveway, Jake's bike lying in the front yard, Madison's chalk drawings fading on the sidewalk. Normal. Everything looked completely normal. I parked down the street again, waiting. At 5:47, Emily emerged with both kids, loading them into the Lexus. Soccer practice. She'd mentioned it in her text. They'd be gone for at least an hour. I waited until they turned the corner, then pulled into the driveway. Time to start gathering evidence. The house smelled like vanilla candles and lies. I stood in the foyer, my carry-on still in hand, listening to the silence. Emily's white Lexus was gone. Still at the Marriott, probably. The kids wouldn't be home until 4:30 when the neighbor dropped them off from soccer practice. I had 2 hours. Maybe 3, if practice ran long. I left my bag by the door and walked through the living room, seeing everything with different eyes. The wedding photos on the mantle, the family portrait from last Christmas, all of us in coordinated outfits, smiling like we meant it. Emily's book club selection sitting on the coffee table, some novel about a woman finding herself after her husband's betrayal. The irony would have been funny if my chest didn't feel like someone had parked a truck on it. I started in her office. The room was immaculate, as always. Emily kept everything organized, color-coded files, labeled storage boxes, a bulletin board with the family calendar pinned front and center. I'd always admired her efficiency. Now I wondered what else she'd been efficient about hiding. I pulled out my phone and started photographing. Every document, every file label, every notation on the calendar. David had been clear. Document everything, but don't disturb anything. She couldn't know I'd been here. The desk drawers yielded the usual: bills, school forms, charitable donation receipts. I photographed it all anyway. Then I found her personal planner, the leather-bound one she carried everywhere. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That surprised me. I'd expected rage or grief or something that felt bigger than this cold, methodical focus. Instead, I felt like I was back in a deposition, gathering evidence, building a case. Maybe that was the only way I could do this without falling apart. I flipped through the planner. Her handwriting filled every page. Appointments, reminders, to-do lists. And there, scattered throughout, small notations that meant nothing if you didn't know what you were looking for. SC lunch, on a Tuesday 3 weeks ago. Scottsdale, probably. Another hotel. Afternoon meeting, on a Thursday in March, with a small star drawn next to it. Personal time, blocked out last Friday, the day I'd been in depositions in San Francisco. Each entry was discreet. Careful. But now that I knew what I was looking at, they were everywhere. I photographed every page going back to January, my thumb cramping from holding the phone steady. Then I put the planner back exactly where I'd found it, checking twice to make sure the angle matched. Her laptop sat closed on the desk. I opened it, and the screen came to life. No password required since it was the family computer. I navigated to her browser history. She'd cleared it. Recently, from the looks of it. Nothing older than yesterday. But she'd forgotten about the autofill. I clicked on the address bar and started typing. The browser helpfully suggested completions. Marriott Scottsdale, Hilton Garden Inn Tempe, Courtyard, Scottsdale North. I screenshotted each one. Then I checked her email, the account she used for personal correspondence, not synced to the iPad. Most of it was mundane. School newsletters, charity event invitations, conversations with her book club about their next selection. But there were gaps, threads that started and stopped abruptly. A confirmation email for a restaurant reservation at a place we'd never been together, dated 2 weeks ago. I forwarded everything relevant to my personal email, then deleted the sent messages from her trash folder. The bedroom came next. Our bedroom. The place where we'd slept next to each other for 15 years, where we'd conceived both our children, where I'd kissed her goodbye 1,000 times before early morning flights. I stood in the doorway, and for the first time since Tokyo, I felt something crack in my chest. The bed was made with military precision, Emily's way. Her nightstand held a novel, reading glasses, a small dish where she kept her jewelry at night. My side was messier, a stack of unread business journals, my own glasses, a water glass I'd left there before flying to Tokyo. I forced myself to move. Her closet first. I went through every pocket of every jacket, every purse, every coat. Nothing. She was too smart for that. But in a shoebox on the top shelf, tucked behind her winter boots, I found a prepaid cell phone. My heart rate kicked up. I powered it on. The battery was nearly dead, but there was enough charge to see the message history. All texts to and from a single number, no name attached. The messages went back 4 months, not 3. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. Missing you already. And Emily's responses in that careful way she had with words, counting the hours. You make me feel alive again. I photographed every message, my jaw clenched so tight my teeth ached. Then I powered the phone off and put it back exactly where I'd found it. The bathroom revealed more. A second toothbrush hidden in the back of the cabinet under the sink, still in its package. Expensive cologne that wasn't my brand. A box of condoms, half empty, shoved behind the cleaning supplies. I documented it all. By the time I finished, I had over 300 photos. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals I'd never questioned. Credit card charges at lingerie stores I'd assumed were for me. Restaurant receipts for places we'd never been together. A whole shadow life, carefully constructed in the margins of our marriage. I was uploading everything to the secure cloud storage David had set up when I heard a car in the driveway. 3:40. The kids, home early. I shoved my phone in my pocket and moved fast, closing Emily's laptop, straightening the planner, making sure everything looked untouched. I grabbed my carry-on from the foyer and took the stairs 2 at a time, reaching our bedroom just as I heard Jake's key in the lock. Dad? His voice carried up the stairs, surprised. Dad, you're home? I took 3 seconds to breathe, to arrange my face into something that wouldn't scare them. Then I walked to the landing. Jake stood at the bottom of the stairs, still in his soccer uniform, his face breaking into a grin. Madison pushed past him, her cleats leaving marks on the hardwood Emily always worried about. You said Saturday. Madison dropped her gear bag and ran up the stairs. I caught her in a hug, and the vanilla smell of her shampoo, the same brand Emily used, nearly undid me. Finished early, I said, and my voice sounded almost normal. Thought I'd surprise you guys. Does Mom know? Jake was already pulling out his phone. Not yet. I kept my tone light. Let's surprise her too. Where is she anyway? Book club, Madison said. She said she'd be home by 5. Book club. Right? Cool. How was practice? They launched into a detailed recap of drills and scrimmages, and I followed them to the kitchen, nodding in the right places, asking the right questions. Madison wanted a snack. Jake needed help with his math homework. Normal things. Regular Thursday afternoon things. I made them sandwiches and helped Jake with quadratic equations, and the whole time I felt like I was watching myself from somewhere else. like I was playing the role of dad in a production where everyone else had the real script and I was improvising. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily, sent to the number she thought was still in Tokyo. Miss you. Can't wait until you're home. Love you. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back, miss you too. See you Saturday. The lie came easily now. Madison was showing me a drawing she'd made in art class when I heard Emily's car pull into the garage. My whole body went rigid. Mom's home. Madison jumped up, leaving her drawing on the table. The garage door opened. Emily's footsteps crossed the threshold into the mudroom. I heard her set down her purse, her keys hitting the ceramic dish we kept by the door. Then she walked into the kitchen and saw me sitting at the table. The color drained from her face. The grocery bags hit the floor. Apples rolled across the tile, 1, 2, 3, coming to rest against the baseboards. A jar of pasta sauce tipped, then settled on its side. Neither of us moved to pick anything up. Greg. Her voice came out strangled. You're home. I stayed in my chair, hands folded on the table in front of me. Steady, calm. I'd practiced this moment on the flight from Tokyo, in the rental car outside the courtyard by Marriott, during the 2 hours I'd spent searching our bedroom while she was at book club. I am. She stood frozen in the doorway, one hand still gripping a reusable shopping bag. Her makeup was fresh, reapplied, I knew now, in a hotel bathroom mirror. The black dress she'd worn to meet Brad was gone, replaced by yoga pants and a casual top. Quick change artist. She'd probably stashed the dress in her trunk. I thought, your flight isn't until Saturday? Plans changed. I picked up my phone from the table, turned it face up. The screen showed her last text to Brad, sent 47 minutes ago. Home soon. Can still feel your hands on me. Her eyes went to the phone, then to my face. The color drained from her cheeks. Where are the kids? Her voice barely above a whisper. Upstairs. Jake's playing video games. Madison's doing homework. I paused. They don't know yet. Know what? But her hand was already moving to her purse, fingers searching for her own phone. The burner phone. The one I'd photographed 2 hours ago before putting it back exactly where I'd found it, tucked inside a tampon box in the bathroom cabinet. That their mother's been screwing someone named Brad for the past 4 months. That she's been charging hotel rooms to our joint credit card. That she's been lying about book clubs and charity meetings and girls' nights out. She found her phone, the regular one, the iPhone, and her thumb moved across the screen. Checking, calculating, trying to figure out what I knew, how I knew it, what evidence I had. Greg, I can explain. Don't. The word came out harder than I'd intended. I forced my voice back down. The kids are right upstairs. We're going to do this quietly. She set her purse on the counter with shaking hands. How long have you known? Does it matter? Please. Her eyes were filling with tears now. Real ones, maybe. Or maybe she'd gotten good at those too. Just tell me. Since Tokyo, since 2:47 a.m. last Thursday when Brad's message came through on the iPad. I watched her face. You know, the family iPad, the one that syncs with your phone. Her hand went to her mouth. Oh God. Yeah. I stood up, walked to the counter, picked up the fallen apples one by one, something to do with my hands. I've had almost a week to think about this, to document everything, to talk to a lawyer. A lawyer. She said it like the word was foreign. Greg, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. I'll end it. You already ended it. I set the apples in the fruit bowl. About 90 minutes ago, actually. In room 237 at the courtyard by Marriott in Tempe. The tears spilled over. You followed me. I did. Jesus, Greg. Keep your voice down. I glanced at the ceiling. They don't need to hear this. Not yet. She grabbed a paper towel, pressed it to her eyes. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold it. What do you want me to say? Nothing. There's nothing to say. I picked up the pasta sauce jar, set it on the counter. I'm filing Monday morning. David Brennan's handling it. You'll be served by Tuesday. David Brennan. She laughed, a broken sound. The shark. You hired the shark. I hired the best. I looked at her directly. Because you used our money, our kids' college fund money, to pay for hotel rooms where you had sex with another man. You used our credit card, our family calendar, our home. It wasn't like that. What was it like, Emily? I kept my voice level, clinical. Explain it to me. Make me understand how you met Brad at that fundraiser in February and decided our 15-year marriage, our 2 kids, our life together wasn't enough. She slid down the cabinet until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. You're never here. I was working, providing for this family. You were absent. She looked up at me, mascara running. Do you know when you last asked me about my day? Really asked and listened to the answer? So that makes this okay? That makes Brad okay? No. She shook her head. No, it doesn't. But Greg, we've been roommates for years. You come home, you're exhausted, you're on your phone, you're planning the next trip. When did we stop being us? I wanted to throw something, wanted to rage. But the kids were upstairs, and I'd promised myself I'd stay in control. You could have talked to me. You could have said something. Instead, you opened a secret phone account and started having an affair. I tried talking to you. Her voice rose slightly. I tried for 2 years. You were always too tired, too busy, too focused on the next deal. So this is my fault. That's not what I'm saying. It sounds exactly like what you're saying. I leaned against the counter. You're sitting there, caught red-handed, and you're making this about me traveling too much. She wiped her eyes again. How much does he know? David Brennan? Everything. The messages, the photos, the hotel receipts, the timeline, Brad's full name, his address, his license plate number. I paused. Is he married? She closed her eyes. Yes. Kids? 2. Jesus, Emily? I ran my hand through my hair. Does his wife know? No. She will. I picked up my phone. David's investigator is very thorough. Her eyes snapped open. You're going to tell her? I'm going to do whatever it takes to protect our kids. If that means Brad's wife finds out her husband's been having an affair, that's on Brad. And you? She pushed herself up from the floor, gripped the counter for support. What happens now? Now? I checked my watch. 7:23 p.m. Now we go upstairs and have dinner with our kids. We act normal. Tomorrow's Friday. You'll take them to school like always. This weekend, we'll tell them together that I'm moving out. Moving out? Her voice cracked. Where? Hotel, then an apartment. David's already looking at places. I moved toward the doorway. Monday morning, I file. You'll need to get your own attorney. Greg, please, stop. I turned back to her. I sat in a hotel room in Tokyo and read 4 months of messages between you and Brad. I know things about your relationship with him that I'll never be able to forget. I watched you walk into that hotel this afternoon. I searched our bedroom and found a second toothbrush, cologne that isn't mine, and a burner phone with messages going back even further than the iPad showed. She was crying again, harder now. I gave you 15 years. I gave you 2 beautiful kids. I gave you everything I had. My voice stayed steady. And you threw it away for afternoon hotel sex with a married man named Brad. I'm sorry, she whispered it. I'm so sorry. I know. I did know. I could see it in her face, hear it in her voice. She was sorry. She was devastated. She was realizing what she'd lost. It didn't matter. Dad? Jake's voice from the top of the stairs. Is everything okay? We heard voices. I looked at Emily. She straightened, wiped her face with both hands, tried to compose herself. "Everything's fine, buddy," I called up. "Mom dropped some groceries. We'll be up in a minute." "Okay." Footsteps retreating. Emily stared at me across the kitchen. "I don't know how to do this." "Neither do I." I picked up the shopping bag she'd dropped, started putting items away. Milk in the fridge, bread on the counter, normal motions. "But we're going to figure it out. For them." She nodded, grabbed another bag, started helping. We worked in silence, putting away groceries like we'd done 1,000 times before. Like we were still a team. Like everything wasn't burning down around us. The pasta sauce went in the pantry. The apples in the bowl. The cheese in the drawer. Marriage as grocery list. Love as inventory. 15 years reduced to items on a shelf. When everything was put away, I washed my hands at the sink. Emily stood by the counter, arms wrapped around herself. "I really did love you," she said quietly. "I still do." I dried my hands on the towel, looked at her one last time as my wife, not my soon-to-be ex-wife. "I loved you too." Past tense. She heard it. I walked out of the kitchen and headed upstairs to have dinner with my kids. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Emily sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea that had long gone cold. I stood by the counter, maintaining the distance I needed to keep my composure. "When are you going to tell them?" she asked finally, her voice small. "We're going to tell them. Together. Tomorrow morning." I checked my watch. 7:30. They'll be up in about 12 hours wondering why their father's sleeping in the guest room. "Greg, don't." I held up a hand. "We agreed. You wanted the weekend to prepare yourself. Fine. But we're doing this tomorrow, and we're keeping it simple. Mommy and Daddy are getting divorced. I'm moving out temporarily. We both love them very much. What about Brad?" I felt something cold settle in my chest. "What about him? Are you going to tell them about—" "No." The word came out harder than I intended. Jake and Madison don't need to know their mother was sleeping with a married man while I was working to provide for this family. They'll figure it out eventually, probably when they're older and can process it better. But I'm not going to be the one to destroy their image of you." She looked up at me then, and I saw tears tracking down her cheeks. "Thank you. I'm not doing it for you." I turned away, staring out the window at our backyard. The swing set I'd built when Jake was 5. The trampoline Madison had begged for last Christmas. I'm doing it for them. They deserve better than having their childhood poisoned by adult mistakes. I never meant to hurt them. But you did. I turned back to face her. "The moment you started this, you hurt them. You just didn't care enough to stop." She flinched. "That's not fair." "Fair," I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You want to talk about fair? Let me tell you what's fair, Emily. Fair is me working 60-hour weeks so you could stay home with the kids. Fair is me missing Jake's baseball games and Madison's dance recitals because I was closing deals that paid for this house, their private school, your book clubs and charity galas. Fair is me trusting you completely while I was gone." "You're never here," the words burst out of her. "Do you know what it's like being alone all the time? Raising them by myself?" You weren't alone. You had the kids. You had your friends. You had a husband who called every night, who came home every weekend he could, who loved you. I paused. And apparently you had Brad. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the tile. "I made a mistake, I know that. But you can't pretend you didn't contribute to this. I traveled for work. That's not the same as infidelity, and you know it." I kept my voice level, controlled. Plenty of couples manage careers and marriage without one of them sleeping around. You made a choice. Own it. I am owning it. I admitted everything. I told you the truth. After I found the evidence. After I confronted you with screenshots and hotel receipts and that burner phone hidden in your closet. I shook my head. You didn't confess, Emily. You got caught. There's a difference. She sank back into her chair, deflating. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you except your cooperation in making this divorce as painless as possible for Jake and Madison. I moved toward the doorway. I'm going to check on them, then I'm going to bed. Guest room. I suggest you do the same. Greg, wait. I stopped but didn't turn around. I really am sorry, for what it's worth. It's not worth much, I said quietly. But I appreciate you saying it. I didn't sleep. I lay in the guest room bed, the same bed where Emily's mother had stayed last Thanksgiving, where my brother crashed when he visited from Seattle, and stared at the ceiling. Down the hall, I could hear the faint sounds of Emily moving around in our bedroom. Our bedroom. It would just be her bedroom soon. At midnight, I heard her footsteps in the hallway. The bathroom door opened and closed. Water ran. Then silence again. At 2:15, my phone buzzed. A text from David Brennan. Got the PI report on Brad. Full name, Bradley James Kaufman. 41, partner at Kaufman and Associates CPAs. Wife's name is Jennifer. 2 kids, ages 8 and 6, lives in Paradise Valley. Clean background, no priors. Financials look solid. Want me to send the full report? I stared at the message for a long moment. Bradley James Kaufman, partner at an accounting firm, 2 young kids, a wife named Jennifer, who probably had no idea her husband was spending his afternoons at the Courtyard by Marriott. Send it, I typed back. The report came through as a PDF attachment. I opened it on my phone, scrolling through the details. Bradley's business address. His home address on East Mockingbird Lane. Photos of his house. A sprawling ranch-style place with a 3-car garage. Photos of Jennifer, a petite blonde woman who looked younger than Emily, pushing a shopping cart at Whole Foods. Photos of the kids, a boy and a girl, at what looked like a soccer game. There was a section on Bradley's business. Kaufman and Associates specialized in tax preparation for high-net-worth individuals. Annual revenue estimated at $2.3 million. Bradley had founded the firm 8 years ago, built it from nothing. Married to Jennifer for 12 years. The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was a man who'd built a successful business just like I had. A man with a wife and 2 kids just like me. A man who should have known better. I closed the report and set my phone on the nightstand. The question David hadn't asked but was clearly implied. What did I want to do with this information? I could send it to Jennifer. An anonymous email with the hotel receipts, maybe some of the text messages. Let her discover her husband's betrayal the same way I discovered Emily's. There was a certain justice to it, but then I thought about those 2 kids. Ages 8 and 6. Younger than Jake and Madison. They'd be starting their weekends tomorrow, probably looking forward to Saturday morning cartoons and pancakes, completely unaware that their world was about to implode. Just like my kids. I picked up my phone again and typed a message to David. Hold off on contacting the wife for now. Let me think about it. His response came immediately. Understood. Standing by. I set the phone down and closed my eyes, though I knew sleep wouldn't come. In a few hours, the sun would rise. Emily and I would go through the motions of a normal Saturday morning, making breakfast, getting the kids up, pretending everything was fine, and then we'd sit them down and destroy their sense of security. The thought made my chest tight. I heard a soft sound from the hallway. Footsteps again, hesitant this time. They stopped outside the guest room door. I waited, barely breathing. A minute passed, then another. Finally, the footsteps retreated. I rolled onto my side, facing the window. Through the blinds, I could see the faint glow of the neighbor's porch light. The Johnsons. Mark and Patricia. Married 32 years. 3 grown kids. Mark had told me once, over beers at a backyard barbecue, that the secret to a long marriage was showing up every day and choosing each other, even when it's hard. I'd nodded along, thinking I understood, thinking Emily and I had that same commitment. Shows what I knew. My phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. I frowned and opened it. "This is Jennifer Kaufman. I got your number from your attorney. We need to talk." I sat up, my heart suddenly pounding. Read the message again. Then again. How the hell had she gotten David's information? And more importantly, what did she know? The mediation conference room felt sterile under fluorescent lights. 6 months had passed since that Thursday afternoon in Tokyo, when a notification changed everything. 6 months of depositions, financial disclosures, custody evaluations, and negotiations that stripped away whatever remained of the marriage Emily and I had built. Now we sat across a mahogany table, Emily with her attorney, me with David, finalizing the terms that would legally end 15 years. Emily looked different. Thinner. Her hair was shorter, styled in a way I didn't recognize. She wouldn't meet my eyes, hadn't looked directly at me since we'd arrived an hour ago. Her attorney, a sharp woman named Patricia Wolfe, did most of the talking. "My client agrees to the custody arrangement," Patricia said, sliding a document across the table. "Joint legal custody with primary physical custody to Mr. Dawson. Every other weekend and Wednesday evenings with Mrs. Dawson." David reviewed the terms, nodded. "And the spousal support?" 36 months at the agreed amount. Non-modifiable. 3 years. Then Emily would be on her own. She'd already started working again. An administrative position at a non-profit downtown. Entry-level pay, but it was something. A start toward the independence she should have maintained all along. "The house?" David asked. "Mr. Dawson retains ownership. Mrs. Dawson waives any claim to equity." I'd bought out Emily's half using money from my retirement account. The kids needed stability, needed to stay in their home in their school district. Emily had agreed without much fight. I suspected guilt played a role in that decision. "And the final matter," Patricia continued, her voice careful. "Mrs. Dawson requests that the details of the marriage dissolution remain confidential. No public discussion of the circumstances leading to the divorce." David looked at me. We'd discussed this. Emily wanted to protect her reputation, wanted to avoid the social fallout that would come if everyone knew about Brad. I'd spent 6 months watching her lose friends anyway. Word had gotten out despite our discretion, the way it always does in tight-knit communities. "Agreed," I said, "on one condition." Emily's head came up. First time she'd looked at me directly in weeks. "She tells Jake and Madison the truth when they're old enough to ask. Not her version. The truth." Patricia started to object, but Emily held up a hand. "Okay," she said quietly. "When they're old enough. I'll tell them." David made a note. "Then we're done. I'll have the final decree drawn up by end of business Monday. Judge Riley's already indicated she'll sign off without a hearing." And just like that, it was over. We stood. Patricia gathered her documents. Emily moved toward the door, then stopped. "Greg?" I turned. "For what it's worth, I hope you find someone who makes you happy." I studied her face, looking for manipulation or hidden meaning. Found only exhaustion and regret. "I hope you figure out what you're looking for," I said, "before you hurt someone else trying to find it." She nodded once, then left. David packed his briefcase. "You did good, Greg. Better than most people manage in situations like this. Doesn't feel like winning. It never does. But you protected your kids, protected your assets, and you're moving forward. That's more than winning. That's survival." Jake adapted better than Madison. At 13, he was old enough to understand that sometimes marriages end, even if he didn't understand why. He threw himself into soccer, made the travel team, started talking about high school tryouts. We had dinner together every night I was home, and I made sure I was home more often now. The big deals could wait. My kids couldn't. Madison struggled. At 10, she still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. She cried the first month, asked repeatedly if Mommy and Daddy might change our minds. Emily and I maintained a united front, gentle but firm. This was permanent. This was real. We both loved her, but we couldn't be married anymore. She started therapy in month 2. A kind woman named Dr. Rachel Stevens who specialized in children of divorce. Slowly, Madison began to accept the new normal. She still had hard days, still sometimes got quiet when she saw other kids with both parents together. But she was resilient. Kids are, more than we give them credit for. Jennifer Kaufman had reached out that first night because Brad had confessed everything. Guilt, apparently, or maybe fear that I'd expose him first. Jennifer had filed for divorce within a week, hired an attorney even more aggressive than David. Brad lost his house, half his business, and primary custody of his kids. Last I heard, he was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Glendale and paying substantial child support. I never told Emily that I'd had nothing to do with Brad's confession. Let her think I'd orchestrated his downfall. Maybe I had, in a way. Maybe just existing as the wronged husband had been enough to trigger Brad's conscience. If he had one. Jennifer and I met for coffee once, 3 months after both divorces were finalized. Not a date. Neither of us was ready for that. Just 2 people who'd survived similar betrayals, comparing notes on lawyers and custody schedules, and the strange process of rebuilding your life after someone you trusted destroyed it. "Do you hate her?" Jennifer asked, stirring sugar into her latte. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "No," I said finally. "I hate what she did. I hate that my kids are hurt. But Emily herself? I mostly just feel nothing. Like she's someone I used to know." Jennifer nodded. "That's healthier than where I am. I still want to key Brad's car most days." I smiled. Give it time. Did it get easier? The anger? Eventually. Once I realized that staying angry was just giving her more of my life. She'd already taken 15 years. I wasn't giving her anymore. A year after the divorce was finalized, I met someone. Her name was Lauren, and she was a consultant like me. Different firm, different specialty, but similar enough that we understood each other's schedules. We met at a conference in Denver, started talking during a break between sessions, and kept talking through dinner that night. She'd been divorced too. No kids, but a similar story. A husband who'd decided the grass was greener, who'd left her for a coworker, who'd blown up their marriage for something that lasted 6 months before imploding. "I don't trust easily anymore," she told me on our 3rd date. "Good," I said. "Neither do I. We'll figure it out together." Lauren met Jake and Madison 6 months later. She didn't try to be their mother, didn't push for anything more than friendly. She just showed up, came to Jake's games, helped Madison with her science project, made dinner with me while they did homework at the kitchen table. Slowly, carefully, she became part of our lives. Emily met someone too eventually. A divorce teacher named Michael who seemed kind in the brief interactions I witnessed during kid exchanges. I didn't ask for details. It wasn't my business anymore. 2 years after that notification in Tokyo, I stood in Jake's bedroom helping him pack for a summer soccer camp. He was 15 now, taller than me. His voice fully changed. Madison was 12, already talking about boys in high school and all the things that terrified me as a father. "Dad?" Jake folded a shirt, added it to his duffel. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Why did you and Mom really get divorced?" I'd known this was coming. Emily and I had agreed to tell them when they were ready, when they asked directly. I sat on his bed, choosing my words carefully. Your mom made some choices that broke the trust in our marriage. And without trust, we couldn't stay married. Did she cheat on you? 13-year-old Jake had suspected. 15-year-old Jake knew. Yes. He was quiet for a moment, processing. Is that why you're so careful with Lauren? Why you always tell her exactly where you are and what you're doing? Smart kid. Too smart. Partly. But also because that's how healthy relationships work. You communicate. You show up. You don't give the other person reasons to doubt you. Do you think you'll marry her, Lauren? Maybe, someday. If we both decide that's what we want. I looked at my son. But I learned something from the divorce. Marriage isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who'll choose you every day, even when it's hard. Someone who'll talk to you instead of running away when things get difficult. Jake nodded slowly. Mom seems happier now, with Michael. Good. I want her to be happy. She's still your mother. You can love both of us. I know. He zipped his duffel. I'm glad you're happy too. You smile more now than you did before. That hit me harder than I expected. I'd been so focused on making sure the kids were okay that I hadn't realized they'd been watching me too, measuring my happiness against some baseline they'd established. Yeah, I said. I am happy. It took a while, but I got there. 3 years after Tokyo, the final spousal support payment cleared. Emily was fully independent now, working full-time, renting a townhouse near her office, building a life that didn't depend on me. We'd settled into an efficient co-parenting relationship. Polite emails about schedules, brief conversations at kid events. Nothing warm, but nothing hostile either. Just two people managing the logistics of raising children across two households. I'd learned things about myself in those 3 years. I'd learned that I'd used work as an escape, that I'd let my career become an excuse for not being fully present. I'd learned that trust, once broken, might never fully heal, but you could build something new, something different, with someone else. I'd learned that my kids were stronger than I'd given them credit for, and that honesty, delivered with love, was always better than comfortable lies. And I'd learned that winning and losing weren't the right frameworks for divorce. Nobody wins when a family breaks apart. You just survive it, and you try to build something better from the pieces. Lauren and I got engaged on a quiet evening in my backyard. Our backyard, really, since she'd moved in 6 months earlier. No grand gestures, no elaborate proposals. Just the two of us on the patio after the kids had gone to bed, talking about the future we wanted to build together. Are you sure? She asked, looking at the ring. Marriage didn't work out so well for either of us the first time. I'm sure, I said, because this time I know what I'm protecting, and I know what I'm willing to give up to keep it. She smiled, kissed me, said yes. The thing about betrayal is that it teaches you what matters. Emily's affair had destroyed our marriage, had hurt our children, had cost us both years of pain and expensive lawyers and difficult conversations. But it had also forced me to examine my own failures, to acknowledge the ways I'd checked out emotionally long before she'd checked out physically. I couldn't control what Emily had done. I couldn't change the past or undo the damage. But I could control what I did next. I could choose to be present for my kids. I could choose to build something honest with Lauren. I could choose to learn from my mistakes instead of repeating them. That was the real lesson, the one that took me 3 years to fully understand. You can't prevent betrayal. People make their own choices, and sometimes those choices destroy what you've built together. But you can control how you respond. You can protect what's precious. You can refuse to let someone else's failures define your future. I'd gone into that Tokyo hotel room thinking I had everything figured out. A successful career, a stable marriage, 2 great kids. I'd been wrong about the marriage, but right about what mattered. The kids were great. The career was successful. And now, with Lauren, I had something I'd never quite had with Emily. A partnership built on honesty instead of assumption, on presence instead of convenience. Emily had taken 15 years, but she'd also, inadvertently, given me the chance to build something better. Not perfect, nothing ever is, but real, honest, worth protecting. And in the end, that was enough.